Yeah. Hello. Sounds like you're frozen.
Right, well, we're hopefully back. Although I think my internet has gone very, very slow.
Is that right, is it?
So
Don't sound good at all, bros.
doesn't sound good. Right, are we back? Back for part 2. Tell you what, I'm just going to shut my camera off a minute. I think it's because my computer is also converting the last file. It's nearly finished, so it might be a little bit wobbly till I get there. So anyway, we're back for part 2 of episode 62. So we are kind of partway through our discussion about lager, although we've just done a little bit of a stop off to talk a little bit about brewery trips we've been on. So Bruce had told us a little bit about Peterborough and Stamford, and he just had a quick rush down to London and had visited a couple of places as well as some posh places as well. So come on then, Bruce, give us a quick resume of your trip to London.
We did. So, some central London, nowhere too outstanding. We went down with some. So we went down with some colleagues the day we used to work with. I suppose you can see from YouTube and see the view. Admission there is free. It's quite astonishing to get that for nothing. It's not quite to the Horizon 22, but as you can see, you get a stunning view of the Tower Bridge and the Thames. So it's pretty premium a pint's not so bad. So we started off in there. We did then go along to the old Cheshire Cheese, where not risking the old brewery in London, I won't drink a pint of Taddy Lager was £6.90p, which seems madness, doesn't it? It's £3.40 in 360 now in all the Samson's pubs in Yorkshire, almost double the price. But it's really old Cheshire Cheese was thriving. No, I don't think so. The fire was it lit though. And then for a bit of nostalgia for us, one of the lads who were with us had been to London for donkey's years. So we got the Clipper up to Westminster Embankment, and I took him to the Red Lion in Whitehall, which of course was the first pub that all three of us, me and Michael, you were younger, you were too young, weren't you? So me and Michael had our first ever pints in London. Say no longer a Tetley Walker House now. It's now a Fuller's pub. So whilst it was in really good condition, the beer had a wide selection of beers. I'd say for Central London, I count about 9 different beers on. Pint of London Pride was £6.40, and I say it was full of tourists, but in really good condition. The middle, loving it. Because it's one of the 2 pubs that has a division bell for the MPs to vote for. Yeah, what year was it we went there, Michael? Would it be 1984? I think.
Yeah, 84, 85. Yeah.
You were a bit younger than us. You had to go see the TV show in Cannes, didn't you, Nick? You went to see Master.
Yeah, Master Teams with Angela Rippon.
Yeah, where me and Michael and our friend, we felt like the dog's bollocks were on London on Saturday night underage drinking, wasn't it?
We'll find out.
So that's when riots were kicking off.
Yeah, I can say because we ended up on a tube. Well, we ended up buzz, and we told to get on the buzz because the buzz wasn't going any further, and we were told to get on the tube quick to get on the other side of the river before it all got shut down.
Yeah. There was a palpable air of tension in the air, wasn't there, really?
Yeah, and all that smoke and people burning things. Anyway, there we go. So, right, a little whistle.
But there was south of the river where we were staying.
Yeah.
Next to me, but they were proper riots, weren't they? They were proper riots.
Yeah. You thought there might be some crash barriers. We could go and stand behind us and watch, I remember rightly. Oh, it'd be all right. There'd be crash barriers. You can go and stand and watch it, happening. I can remember walking down this street. We walked down this street, and it was obviously kind of part of the kind of black ghetto, and just all these guys just sat outside the houses. And obviously, like you said, it was obviously all tented, screaming sirens everywhere. And anyway, we managed to get back to the hotel. Okay.
It was quite extraordinary. And the conductor on the bus, the route bus, she says, "Get home, lads, get home, while you can." Yeah.
All right, let's get back to lager then. So, as we said, obviously lager is a huge both off license and on sales drinking in the UK. Probably more of a summery drink, although I think again barbecues, Christmas, you always get the lagers in. And as we were saying, yeah, it kind of thinking a little bit back, it's been with us certainly through our drinking journey. So Nick was already throwing around his little Hansa pump. Hansa was Cameron's.
Where's a bloody ton, man? No plastic shite in those days, proper brass.
And by all accounts, it became a massive marketing campaign. They claim that they reckon that Skoll was the first beer that really kind of got hold of that. So remember, Skoll had that kind of Viking type thing, didn't it? Skoll lager, and then Harp came along. Harp was a Guinness. Well, it wasn't Diageo in those days, was it? And they reckon that Harp managed to get 25% of the whole UK market. Again, just what was it? Harp stays sharp to the bottom of the glass. That was there,
right? Yeah.
Wasn't it? Harp stays sharp. And then of course Heineken came along. I didn't Heineken have a bear as well. I know we have the Hofmeister bear, but it
was Georgia Hofmeister bear.
That was
Hofmeister's reinvented itself now. It's like a craft Hello Slag, wasn't it? In posh pubs.
Yeah. And then, of course, the one for us locally was Kestrel. I think Kestrel again was one of the northeast kind of brewery version of it. And of course, they did that super strength one with about 9%. That was like rocket fuel.
Federation Brewery.
That was it. Federation Breweries. Yeah. But yeah, all good fun. And again, it was interesting that both Guinness and Carlsberg don't actually own any pubs, which is again one of those little facts. You know that partly is what's driving this. That then Carlsberg and Guinness don't have any pubs. They're just brewers, and they obviously buy into Tide systems, pub chains, and they kind of work it through. So what I thought we would do is we'd have a little bit of a competition for these pair to say, I've got the kind of major. I'm not going to more because I ran out and it was going to be boring. But I've got kind of probably the 9 or 10 kind of key lager brands that you like to come across, as we've said, in a pub, in a club, and maybe in a restaurant. And I just guess can we kind of guess their heritage? So the number one for most of the kind of noughties and the late 90s was Carling. So, and obviously Carling Black Label was where it first came from. There's been a few versions. There was a Carling Premiership, wasn't there, when the Premier League launched, which was supposed to be colder and more premium. Now it's just Carling in it. It's straightforward Carling. So, any idea of the origins, gents? Where's it come from?
Canada.
All right,
Originally Canadian brewery.
Do you want to go any further back than that?
I knew it was a Canadian brand name. I thought it was brewed in Burton on Trent, isn't it?
Well, I can wait for that one. So, Thomas Carling was the guy who first started brewing Carling 1840. Nick is correct that he started brewing in London, Ontario, Canada. But guess where he was from? He was from Yorkshire. He was a Yorkshire farmer. So he was a Yorkshire farmer who, I guess, if you think about probably 1830s, was in that kind of one of those depressions. And probably I'm guessing there was a potato famine around then. So he emigrated to Canada with lots of other folk as well. Set up a brewery, started brewing, and yeah, it became Canada's best-selling beer. Did a deal with Molson Coors, as lots of them do, and Bruce was right. It's now brewed in Burton upon Trent, and it's probably the biggest beer that they brew. Although, again, it sounds like they're not doing as good as they were.
They make a thing of saying it's 100% British barley that is used to brew it. Therefore, you can call it is a British lager.
Right. What about Foster's?
It's not brewed in Foster's. No, it's not brewed in Tal. Who's the parent company of Foster's? Who's the parent company of Foster's?
It's got a bit of a biss. So it is Australian. It was actually really brewed in Australia. Although when I was to Australia, you'd never find Foster's in Australia. No. You could ask for it.
In Australia, each state has its own beer, doesn't it? So in Sydney, it's Tooheys, isn't it?
Yeah.
In Melbourne, it's Victoria Bitter. It's Castlemaine in Perth, isn't it?
Yeah.
But there's one state that does Foster's.
It's Carlton that own Foster's outright. Yeah. And Carlton Draft is probably what you drink in Melbourne more than VB. And actually, I came across something called Carlton Gold. If you ever go to Australia, ask for a Carlton Gold, and you'll get the knowing nod from the. I think they got a gold top, and that's a really nice beer. Actually, it was Irish. They were American Irish immigrants who actually began brewing it in Melbourne in about 1886. Obviously, the big beer was IPA. IPA was what was being sent over from Burton and Tadcaster in 1886. But the IPA didn't, whilst it did well on the journey, it didn't like the dry heat of Australia, and it just basically just went off. So again, it was about what could you refrigerate, and this Pilsner type lager was much better. It's actually now jointly owned by Asahi and by Heineken. And most of it's actually brewed in Moss Side in the Royal Moss Side Brewery, which is the Heineken, which you always forget about. But Heineken's got a massive brewery in South Manchester, but it's also brewed and licensed by Asahi as well. And again, I know they've been. I was trying to dig the news out. I might come back to that. They're up to their little tricks again out there. Asahi, that they're closing down another brewery. I think is going to be closed down. I think was it Wells. We know we closed on Meantime. But I think they said also they're moving in production of another set. We'll come back to that maybe next week. So what about the best-selling beer in the UK? What about Birra Moretti? So heritage-wise,
Northampton, isn't it? It's brewed in Madry's brewed in Northampton, isn't it? Madry's brewed in Northampton. Moretti's brewed in Tadcaster, isn't it?
No, I thought the way around. Madrid's brewed in Tadcaster, isn't it?
It's brewed in Manchester. It's Heineken. So Heineken actually, I've had quite a long history with it. If you look at the green bit, the reason why kind of Birra Moretti, well, look at the guy. He doesn't look very Italian, doesn't he? He looks more Austrian, because this bit of Australia was in Austria for a while, and that's where the beer link comes from. So that's why it's quite an Austrian style lager, because this bit of Italy was in Austria. But it's got quite a long heritage. So it began brewing in 1859. Were bought out by Heineken, and as you said, most of it now is actually brewed in the UK. So obviously Heineken have got brewery at Tadcaster as well, so they may well brew there. And I think they've got a brewery in Edinburgh as well, haven't they, Heineken? So it will be brewed there as well. Coors Light.
Oh, they should definitely brewed at Tadcaster. Past the sign.
So this was obviously from America, Colorado, 1873. A German immigrant, actually a pair of German immigrants, who actually got a recipe off a Czechoslovakian guy. So they do claim that it's got some kind of Budvar kind of style, its heritage is very much Budvar. But yeah, you're right, it's Molson Coors, and it's Burton-on-Trent and or Tadcaster, whichever one. Our brewery in Tadcaster.
Isn't it the best selling in America now? Hasn't it overtaken Budweiser?
It probably has, actually, yeah.
Because supposedly it's light and it's not going to put weight on, as though Americans are bothered about that.
Yeah. And then the other one, this one's always kind of stumps me a little bit, really. Stella, so the old good old white beater.
Yeah,
it's actually quite a lot younger than quite a lot of
I know it's from Leuven in Belgium originally, but I don't know where it's brewed. Our version is brewed.
Yeah.
So actually, it was actually a Christmas beer brewed for Leuven. Like as you said, it was the brewery in Leuven, which was established back in they reckon that's a brewery goes back to 1466, but this beer actually was brewed for the first time in 1925 as a Christmas beer, which is why it's Stella Star. So that's what it is. So it's Star beer basically. So you're right, it's in Belgium, and guess who owns it now? Well, it's owned by Inbrew now, AEB or whatever they're called, and this is actually most of it's brewed in South Wales, because they have a massive brewery just outside Newport in South Wales. So
I can't stand our version of it. I don't like it at all. But to be fair, if you get it in France or Belgium, it is really nice.
Yeah.
Our version's horrible.
Carlsberg did do a Christmas beer.
Yeah, which was right.
I think they still do a special Christmas beer each year to Carlsberg.
Now, I know we've done a bit of logos and things, and Nick did an episode way back at the start of the podcast, which I know Nicholas, I'm sure he'll tell us, is still the most watched, listened.
Still the most popular, isn't it? It's the most watched. Oh, yes.
Now, we've talked a little bit about logos and trademarks, but they claim that Stella Artois is the world's oldest ever logo. And the only one that disputes it is Twinings of London, who make tea, don't they, Twinings? So there is the original. That's the original one right there. If you're on YouTube. So interesting fact.
I always thought Bass was the world's oldest logo.
No, that was trademark. That's the oldest trademark.
Ah, right.
They reckon that this one goes back to 1366. If you look on the actual writing there, it says this logo was actually drawn in 1366, which is a little bit not quite sure they had that particular type of calligraphy in 1366, but that's what they claim. That's what they claim. So we've mentioned a little bit about Carlsberg. Carlsberg is massive. They actually opened a brewery in Northampton in 1974. It's their only other brewery. It wasn't at the time the only other brewery outside of Denmark that they built, and this was just a mega lager pumping brewery to fill all our pubs with lovely beer, and kind of that's what they do. They also claim that they also do Hobgoblin now. I think there, and Shipyard and Wainwright is also brewed there as well. But yeah, this is a mega brewery. 2 million pints a day they produce.
Wow.
And again, as Nick was saying, I bet it's a staff of about 50 or 60, I would imagine. It'll all be computerized and very much the way modern breweries are. It is thought to have produced 28 billion pints over the last half century. So pretty impressive, isn't it? I'm sorry, and San Miguel.
Now, Carlsberg,
there as well.
Carlsberg used to brew a beer called Elephant Beer.
Yeah.
That was like ale. We came across that in the Olympia bowling ring in Scarborough.
Right, yeah, that's right.
It was the only stuff that was decent. It was about £2 a bottle. Hello. £2 a bottle, and we didn't realise how strong it was. But it was something like 7.5%. And after you'd had 3 or 4 of those, and then went try and go and playing bowling, instead of seeing 10 pins, you sort of saw 20 pins so it was a no-brainer. But Elephant Beer. I don't know if they still do it or not. But obviously, elephants were after the entrance of the Carlsberg Brewery. There's 2 elephants, isn't there?
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think there's a couple of stories, but one was because didn't Mr. Carlsberg have twins or sons that died? And so he built the elephants because elephants never forget, as a memorial to his children or something. Elephant Beer, Carlsberg Elephant Beer. If it's still out there, let us know.
And the brewery itself it won awards. Apparently, it's supposed to be longboat inspired and very much kind of in that kind of Scandi kind of architecture. Although it doesn't look particularly inspiring these days, does it? I think that's the original brewery, the big at the back there, and this is all a bit of a modern bit there as well. Okay, right. Let's go through some of the more modern beers then. Madri, which we've mentioned many times, I think, on the podcast.
So that's
it's never been anywhere near.
Definitely Brewers and Tetley's.
Never been. This is Course Tadcaster. Never been anywhere near anywhere in Spain. There's never been a beer in Spain called Madri. Certainly not in Madrid. They claim that they brought some brewers over, but it's a little bit of a dodgy one.
No.
Amstel.
That's a Heineken brand, is it?
Heineken, yeah. So Tadcaster, probably the John Smith's brewery. We did start a program a few weeks ago, didn't we? Because was it Lidl were actually doing some of the real stuff?
Yeah, I've still not had it, actually. I've still not had it, yeah.
It was interesting, actually, reading this one. Start a problem. It was Bass. It was bought by Bass when the Berlin Wall came down. Bass quickly went in and bought it and bought them out. As a bit of a kind of let's get an East European beer. It was then sold to InBev. They then sold it back to Bass. And now Molson Coors have it. And so again, most of it in the UK is brewed in Burton on Trent, and goes nowhere near Czechoslovakia. On to Nick's beers then, on to our Indian beers that you'd get in an Indian takeaway or maybe a Chinese takeaway as well. So Cobra.
I think that's mass produced now, isn't it?
Yeah. So it was heritage in Bangalore. It was a Bangalore beer back in the 19th century. But since 2009, it's all been brewed in Burton by Molson Coors. Kingfisher.
That was he was a graduate, wasn't he? He an Indian chap who graduated in this country and decided to build a brewery or to create a brewery.
Yeah.
But once again, I don't think it's independent anymore, is it?
No. Well, they claim it goes back to 1857. The United Brewers of India first started brewing a Kingfisher beer. And it's been brewed under license by Heineken at Tadcaster. But again, that's a look at that. That's kind of an advertising picture. Look, it looks like piss, doesn't it? I mean, that's chocolate lager. I mean, it's horrible.
And got a head on it, couldn't it?
And obviously we have Tiger beer, which again, was from Singapore.
Singapore.
1932. But actually, apparently, was actually even from the start of this, Heineken were involved in 1932 in brewing this with them. So again, it's another one of those brewer. It's mainly brewed now in Moss Side in Manchester. Apparently, it's brewed in 11 countries. It's been quite a success actually for Singapore.
Remember drinking many bottles of that on Clark's Quay in Singapore, looking at the Merlion. Yeah, lovely drink to have on a hot evening.
I mean, they reckon that in Singapore it's actually brewed with rice
as well.
They reckon actually most of it in Singapore is brewed with rice, whereas we brew it with corn. So then that's a little bit different taste. And then Bruce has kind of mentioned these, but we have Peroni and we've got Budweiser Budvar and Pilsner Urquell. Is there anything, gents, about these three that make them unique?
Budweiser is still independent.
All these three have to be imported, don't they?
Yeah.
They're all imported. There's nothing to do.
So none of these. Yeah, none of these are brewed in the UK. If you want to drink a Peroni, a Budweiser Budvar, or a Pilsner Urquell, either on draft or in bottle, you're drinking the real McCoy. It's actually coming from. To this day, as last time I could find out, these are all still brewed in their home brewery and then exported either in small pack or actually in barrels as well. So yeah, these are all still the original.
So why has Peroni changed then? Peroni used to be a nice, unique drink, and now it's just basically nondescript like all the rest of them.
Well, I guess they would argue they reckon that's a British market, wouldn't they? They'll argue they're brewing it to suit the market, which is a little bit worrying, isn't it? Well, there we go. Yeah, so they're the three. If you want a lager, Budvar. In fact, Budvar, I quite like Budvar.
That's easily nice to those, isn't it?
Yeah, although that again, I think that has changed, and I think again, I'm sure the ABV's come down, hasn't it? Because I'm sure it was a lot stronger when it first arrived in those big pint bottles, wasn't it, when it first came over? And then it went on. It
was really flowery and fragrant. I can't get away with drinking it at all.
Honey, sweet.
Yeah,
we used to drink that in Cornucopia because the draft beer in there used to be so bloody horrible. That was one of the first places we were able to see that.
Yeah.
And then obviously what's happened more recently is this kind of crossover beer. So this kind of mashup, I've called it, where we've either got kind of craft breweries like Brew York and Brew Dog and Jowls's, for example. They've all now got their own craft lagers. So obviously Brewdog do quite a few lagers, don't they? This is lager is probably the one that you think about. Green Monkey is the one I mentioned about Jowls's, which they claim is an English craft lager. Brew York again do quite a lot of lager things. We've got Korev, that's Austell Brewery, isn't it? They do Korev, the Cornish lager. And then we've also got, certainly near to me, we've got Freedom Brewery. They're based in Staffordshire. All they brew is lager, nothing else. And again, they're pretty good actually. And then also Don Zoko Brewing. I think they're based in. I'm sure they're Scottish, kind of Edinburgh. Where they're just a pure lager brewer. So quite interesting, really. And then
Guinness dipped the toe into lager a couple of years back, didn't they?
Yeah.
Hop House, yes. It didn't last over here though, did it? Yeah.
No, they did another one as well. They did a bottled one, but I think that's by the by now.
And then we've mentioned a few times, but if you go over the board in Scotland, you'll find not a lot of Carling and not a lot of beer Moretti. You'll still find yellow stacks and stacks of yellow Tennants. So Tennants is still 20% of the Scottish market is still Tennants and still very much the drink. Again, a lot of it that was marketing. So apparently this is Anne. Tennant's Anne was the first lady to be seen selling lager back in the 1950s. And that then there was a whole pump clip thing. Here's Vicky, not very many clues. And apparently there's about 12 of these Tennant girls. And apparently if you made it, you became a Tennant girl.
Oh, they used to have them on the cans.
Yeah, on the cans as well.
Pick them up on eBay now.
Yeah.
So it's like Ben Hill beer. Yeah.
Now they actually, and as Nick's already mentioned, there's a bit of a competition. So actually, it's William Younger's claim that they were the first lager producers, because they reckon that this guy called William Younger, although the guy with the stick and the pint, he actually employed a chemist called William McGovern, who trained in Europe, went up to Carlsberg, brought back some of the yeast, and began brewing lager in 1880. It was lager, and therefore it's not English. So that's one reason why the Scots like it, because obviously it's not our drink. It's kind of more of a Scandinavian drink. The colder climate in Scotland suited it because it was easier to lager. The malts produced in Scotland again are less kind of more less dark malts, more those kind of golden malts, and of course they've got quite a lot of the water's a lot harder in Scotland, not like the kind of Burton-y, stinky, sulphurous water. It's more hard, it's more granite water, and that's apparently better for lager. And obviously, you also then had all the kind of Glasgow coalfields, steelworks, so lots of very, very thirsty Scottish people. So that's why lager kind of very quickly in Scotland became the dominant drink. But again, it's kind of lager with bits in, isn't it? It's a bit like iron brew, isn't it? It's Scottish Tennent's is different, I think, from a pint of watery Carling, isn't it? Feels like
Definitely.
it's got a few bolts and stuff in it, doesn't it? You know, that's kind of there. Yeah. And yeah, very much became the kind of the big thing. Younger's Kestrel, it's my export lager. McEwen's lager, remember that one? We haven't mentioned McEwen's lager. That was quite popular again. That was Scottish and Scottish.
It was, yeah. For our childhood, yeah.
Tennent's lager, do you know, with the official supply to Buffalo Bill's Wild West Show, would you believe? So very, very interesting. Tennent's Brewery. So loads of stuff there about thing. Tennent's is in 8 out of 10 pubs in Scotland.
Yeah, I believe it. I mean, we were there, and it was astonishing to find a pub without it.
Yeah.
What is bizarre is that stuff like the Tennent's special extra. I mean, it's like, you know, nutcase juice in Scotland, but in Italy, it's a premium drink. We actually came across it in Sicily, didn't we? We were in a really famous arancini shop in Messina, and sure enough, there it was in the fridge, Tennent Special Extra, and it's called a premium drink. It's absolutely bizarre. How that's got marketed like that. So,
yeah.
I tried it.
So you go to the pub, guys. There's no cask on. The cask's just gone off, or you've looked and it's Doombar and Abbott, and you look down the lager line. So, Bruce, you've already mentioned a couple of lagers you might pin for. So it might be an Amstel, maybe. If it's £2 a pint.
No, doing it the right price. It's quite like that. I must admit, I really do like that Prava lager. That's the weaker version of Star Pramen, isn't it? It tastes very clean, very fresh. I really do really quite like that one a lot. Yes, I've come across that. Some of the, you know, I mean, obviously the Sam Smith's organic lagers are absolutely delicious, but getting a little bit pricey. Sending quite a bit of that, really. Yes. What's your favourite lager?
Nick, what would you choose if you given the choice?
Me, right, probably still Italian, Moretti or Peroni, but I would probably go somewhere else and get a beer.
Getting imported Ignusa, that's delicious. Yeah.
Yeah, we used to have it in Florio's, but he said it got too expensive.
Yeah.
So he moved on.
So I think now, having discovered this last week in a pub, I'll talk to you a little bit about the next time we're on, which was on my birthday trek, where going back to Bruce's consumption, I did manage just about 2 gallons of beer, which I haven't done for many, 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 many years. So Finley was trying to keep count of me. So I reckon we got to 15 pints. I had a few halves and things as well. So I reckon it was 15 pints. And I was home by about 8 o'clock. So it was quite short one. And I think 3 of the pubs we went to were shut. So we had a little bit of wasted journey. But I've made a decision to try and visit pubs where I've never ever been into in the 30 odd years I've lived in Stoke-on-Trent. So it's on the backstreet boozers. But in the first boozer we actually got that was open after kind of a false start, I walked in and I'd read it was a Green King pub, although you wouldn't have known it. And before I realised that the Irish guy behind the Irish couple ran the pub, I wasn't sure what to have, and I actually didn't see the Guinness pump at the other end. So I said, "Oh, good, I'll try a Malt Smiths." So then, whether you guys have come across this, so this is apparently a Green King brewed beer. They do an IPA Malt Smith, and then they do a Pilsner Lager Malt Smith, and apparently it is something they've done with Heineken. It's a bit of a link, and again, if you look at the label there, the stag apparently is to say that its heritage is Scottish and the anchor is from Hamburg. So this is supposed to be kind of a crafty German Scottish lager mix up. And I've got to say, actually, it was quite nice. So I'd probably, if I saw a Malt Smiths, I would recommend it. I think I've seen them in Ireland. I think they have them in Ireland. But this is Green King's kind of craft arm. Very quickly realised that when the barman told me he'll ever drink Guinness, and he had a very strong Cock accent. So I did say I went on to the Guinness after that, and it was very, very nice. And that kind of, I think we ended up having 3 pints in there at about 11:30 in the morning, which start, which probably put us slightly off schedule. but kind of there we go. Very good. So I think that's been a good discussion about Ligo. I think we've given it its due course and all. So we'll move on to our next episode, 63, in a couple weeks' time. I think we need to do a lot of catch up because we've been doing quite a lot of wandering around, and off to various places.
Well, some of you have.
Yes, well, Nick's off to the Isle of Wight soon, Bruce, so we can maybe revisit your Isle of Wight top tips. Available in the Isle of Wight.
Brew looks good.
Yeah, when do you go, Nick?
I'm not telling that on the air. People come around and pitch me washing.
I'll be washing. What do you mean at your
before
mother's?
Christmas, Bruce.
Yeah. We'll have to go some next time. We're going to have a Northern Rail trip. We'll have to go to places, not revisit anywhere. Go to totally new places. Perhaps a couple of fantastic booths in Rochdale. Everyone says are great. And,
yeah, but the problem is, Bruce, they've took the bloody railway up. they've took a bridge out, haven't they? They've took the bloody bridge from Yorkshire to Lancashire. It's gone. So at the moment, you can't get across unless you're getting a bus, Nick, for an hour and a half, wasn't it? When we looked, that was our plan last week.
Hour and 20 minutes.
Hour and 20 minutes, yeah. Because that was our plan last week, but unfortunately, I think the last weekend they're working is next weekend. So the M62 shut and the railway shut every weekend at the moment, which is causing quite a lot of mayhem, I imagine. So once that's done, we can. Again, for me, we're trying to find an alternative. It's just impossible for me. I've got to get to Manchester and Northern, then I can go off. So all good. So we'll catch up. We'll plan the next one. It's likely to be a couple of weeks' time. And I said I think we have got a bit of catch to do. So very good, Jed. Any immediate plans, sweet gentlemen? I think I'm maybe going to dry out a little bit. I think for a couple of weeks myself, get ready for Christmas. It's gone quite autumnal, hasn't it now? So
it has, yeah. So the fires have lit in the pubs again, which is great. I'm going up to Newcastle next weekend just for a night. Me and Christian have had the hotels.com abolished the free night, so they turned it into 112 quid, so put it towards having a night in Jesmond. So I think we're going to go to Tynemouth and might look at the Crown Passada and maybe check out a couple of new places. Durham on the way.
When have they done that, Bruce?
Hotels.com, they've abolished all the free night stays. So if you had any stamps, they convert them into pounds. Right. So because we'd had a few nights in a high value hotel, they give us £112 in credit. So
yeah, I think he's got some of them stashed up, like so.
Yeah, I get it amused, for amusing. But let's get on all the rail trip plan, and I say, and if you get everyone get just 2 days off together, we'll go to Scotland. But it needs to be 2 day trip. It needs to be 2 days. Make it worth it. Get to Aberdeen and back, and we can think with them tickets. I'll get you one. We can just you don't have to book any trains. We can just jump on and jump off any station, any time, any train, any day. It's which is so we'll have to do that.
Right, like Michael Portillo.
Hey, so have a good one.
I've been doing people are doing these extreme day trips now where they fly to European cities for a day, like Ryan.
Like trend, isn't it? Yeah.
Quite fancy doing some of those. Quite fancy doing off. Get 7 hours. Quite fancy that, really.
It's all right if your planes are on time. Nothing goes wrong. Otherwise, you're
you're stuck out. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you soon.
See you soon.
Goodbye.